Good afternoon, and I'm really happy that you all are participating in this induction training program on air quality management. What I'm going to do in the next 30 to 45 minutes is to give you some idea about some of the best practices that municipalities can implement on air pollution. Practices that is basic, that we generally ignore, but is quite doable. And this is what the endeavor of this session is going to be. I am going to discuss things which are simple, which are basics, which we are not doing, but we ought to be doing. This is going to be the basic thrust of my presentation today on best practices in air pollution management in India. Now, I know most of you have so far in 2.5 days have understood issues of impact, the impact of air pollution on health. You have understood basics of regulations, what kind of regulatory tools and techniques are being enforced in the country. You have understood basics of inventory. Now, this session is basically the culmination of what you have learned so far in terms of practice. How the knowledge that you have learned, how it can be applied in practice is what we are going to discuss today in this class. So let me share my presentation with you on best practices in air pollution management. Let me start by giving you a picture of what is polluting our air. Now, these two graphs are sector-wise contribution of particulate matter pollution in Delhi. Now, this is a combination of 4 studies that have been done over the last 5 to 6 years. And these charts have put those information from 4 studies together. Now, if you see carefully, you will see that as far as PM 2.5 is concerned, the biggest source is dust, as you can see here in dotted lines, this blue dotted shade, which shows the contribution of dust to PM 2.5. And then there is transport, which is at the bottom. So as far as Delhi is concerned, and PM 2.5 is concerned, the biggest contributors are dust and transport. Now, if you look at PM 2.10, PM10, if you look at PM10, then you see that dust dominates as far as source is concerned. Dust is the biggest source of PM10 in Delhi. Now, this situation may be different, maybe significantly different, maybe marginally different, or maybe same in various cities. To understand what is the sector-wise contribution of air pollutants in a city, you have to do both attribution studies as well as develop inventory. Now, but this is what the picture in Delhi looks like. And I wanted to show this to you because Delhi is also the most studied city as far as source of air pollution is concerned. Now, it is very clear from this is that if we want to solve particulate matter, then dust is something we have to address. Transport is an important one, but dust seems to be a major factor for particulate pollution in cities like Delhi. Of course, you have emissions from industries, you have emissions from thermal power plant. Those will also have to be taken care of. But as I started by saying, I am going to discuss things today which a municipality can do, which people can do locally to improve their air quality. And therefore, prioritization becomes very important. You cannot address everything, municipalities cannot do everything, and therefore we have to prioritize what we have to, what we want to focus on. As I said, dust is a major source of pollution, and then of course burning of fossil fuel, biomass and waste If you can look at if you can look at if you look at what we are burning, what are the fuels and waste and biomass we are burning, then you can see it in this table. This is the burning basket of India. This is what we are burning in this country. We are burning about 1 billion ton of coal, 1,000 million tons coal. We burned about 500 million tons of biomass. We burned about 240 million ton of petroleum products, which goes into automobile and in petrochemical industries. We burned 100 million tons of agricultural residue. We burned 45 million tons of natural gas. We burned about 10 to 15 million tons of municipal waste. This is what we burn in the country. If you take this basket and look at dust pollution, this is what the major source of air pollution is in India. What we burn, and as I showed you, we burn about 2 billion tons of material. Half of that is coal, 30% of that is biomass. 80% of things that we burn in India is coal and biomass. Biomass, which is burnt for cooking every day, 3 times a day, in a lot of households in this country. And burning of biomass is a major source of pollution. Burning of coal in thermal power plant, in industries, and as well as in cooking, as cooking fuel. We still use coal in coal belt of this country as a cooking fuel. So if one has to prioritize, of course, one should do inventory of the cities to understand what is the source of pollution. But in terms of general priority, it is quite clear that we have to address dust, all the sources of dust, and then we have to address coal and biomass. If you want to solve air pollution problem in this country, you cannot solve without reducing air pollution from burning of coal and burning of biomass. So let me, capture and say that, capture the summary of what I have said so far is that we have to address dust and we will have to address coal and biomass if we want to significantly reduce air pollution in the country. So what do we do for dust control? How do we control dust? Now, what are the major sources of dust in a city? The major source of dust in a city is open space. A space which is barren, open, unpaved is a major source of dust. Then you have road and roadside, which is another source of dust. And then you have dust which comes out of site preparation for large infrastructure project, where you are clearing, excavating, trenching, backfilling, compacting the earth is a major source of dust pollution. Dust pollution comes from construction and demolition, from waste disposal side, from transportation, loading and unloading of dusty material, and dust that comes from outside the city. In a city like Delhi, which is at the border of Thar Desert, there is a lot of airborne dust that comes out of Thar from the western part of India. So these are the major sources of dust in a city. And if you want to reduce dust pollution, you will have to address all these issues. So what are the basic principles of dust control? There are 3 principles. First is prevent, which means that you have to avoid creation of dust through good project planning. If you are doing a major infrastructure development project, then you must plan the project in such a way that you have least amount of area which is open, which is generating dust. We generally do not do that in India. We basically open the entire construction site, and therefore dust is generated from all the places. So prevention, and as far as construction of building, construction of road, construction of infrastructure projects is concerned, prevention is a very important tool. We must do better project planning to reduce dust. Then we have to minimize dust by capturing, collecting, containing the emission. And then we have to mitigate, which is we have to prevent fugitive dust by dust mitigation technology. So technology is at the bottom. Technology should not be the first priority. And I think a lot of time we do this mistake. We do not work on prevention and minimization. We directly move to technology and mitigation. But if there is an action pyramid, then the top of the action pyramid is prevention and minimization, not mitigation. Mitigation should only come in when prevention and minimization is not working. What are the best practices? As I said, you have to, if you want to reduce dust generation within a city, you have to reduce barren open spaces. You have to either do biological covering, or you, where required, you will have to do paving as well. Whether you do porous paving or you do non-porous paving, depending on situation. But you cannot reduce in a country like India, which is for at least 4 months, which is dry, dusty, and hot. You will have to reduce open barren space if you want to reduce dust pollution. You have to plant vegetation, whether it is grass or trees, for retaining soil or creating a windbreak. And therefore, greening of city is the most important tool to reduce dust. Greener the city, less amount of dust will be generated from the loose soil. Then you can use dust suppression technologies. You can apply water. I think many of the people of my generation will remember, I come from a small city, that before brooming, cleaning the roads, water used to be spread on the roads so that less dust is generated. So go back 10 to 20 years, and application of water was done on the roads to reduce dust. So water is still a dust suppression technology. If water is available, recycled water is available, it can be used as a dust suppression technology. But now you also have non-toxic chemical dust suppression, which can be used, and I will discuss it in a little more detail later. As far as construction site is concerned, open site is concerned, it has to be covered with loose. You have to cover all the loose material, whether you use textile, geotextile, plastic, any other material. Loose material cannot remain uncovered because the wind will pick up the material and convert it into dust. And therefore, as far as municipality is concerned, please ensure that there is no loose material at a construction site, if you want to really reduce dust emission from a construction site. For larger site, you will have to create windbreaks. And this practice is now becoming quite common in big cities, where steel plates, steel sheets are being used as a windbreak, or trees are kept as a windbreak. As far as transportation is concerned, if it is a loose material transportation, it has to be a covered transportation, and the vehicle speed has to be reduced. So vehicle speed is not only important, less vehicle speed within a city is not only important from accident prevention, it is also important from dust prevention. Speed determines how much material will be mobilized in the air. So if a truck is transporting loose material, it has to be covered and it has to move at a low speed. It cannot move at a very high speed. As far as sweeping is concerned, road sweeping is concerned, do not use any mechanical device which does not have dust control system. So whether you are using rotary brush, power broom, mechanical sweeping, or manual sweeping, it should be prohibited if you are not using any pollution control technology. Manual sweeping with water spray is an acceptable practice. If you are doing manual sweeping, like it used to be done in olden days, or you spray water and then do sweeping. Otherwise, any manual sweeping is going to mobilize dust into the environment. And as I said, if you are going to use mechanical technology, then use sweeper or power broom, which is equipped with vacuum collection and filtration system. A lot of cities are now buying these automatic mechanical sweeping and dust collection system. Please make sure to look at the quality of filtration system and the collection system. Otherwise, it is of no use. So specification on what is the filtration system becomes very, very important. I'm going to give you an example of site preparation. I'm sure a lot of you would have seen this picture in your city where large area is open for construction. How do you manage dust at such a site? The best management practice is to develop a dust control plan. And therefore, any big infrastructure project that is coming up, I will very strongly recommend, whether you are a state pollution control board, or you are a municipality, or you are a private sector person, or you are an IOR recommending and supporting cities, please ensure that a dust control plan is put in place for all major projects. It is not required for a small house, but it is certainly required for large projects, multi-story building, airports and roads and bus stations that is being constructed across the country. Basically, dust control plan is a plan that describes all the potential source of dust and method that can be employed to control dust. So we must develop dust control plan as we are constructing our city. We generally do that with industries. You know, we tell industries that do your environmental impact assessment and make environmental management plan. But environmental management plan is about reducing pollution from a stack, reducing water pollution from, from the processes. We now have to focus on dust. As I told you, in this country, India, you can only reduce air pollution significantly if you are able to control dust. Dust is a major source of air pollution in India, and we all have to now start thinking about dust control plans for our cities, for major construction projects. Of course, prevention and minimize, as I said, is the first principle. You will have to minimize the disturbed area. You must, in dust control plan in a way that minimum area is disturbed at any one point of time, and that you are not cutting the entire trees, you are not excavating the entire area. Those are not required. So minimize the disturbed area, reduce vehicle speed within the site, minimize your drop height, which is, if we are looking at material collection, material dumping, then drop height is very important. If you can minimize the drop height, less dust will be generated. And then you must not do construction at high wind seasons. If the wind speed is more than 30 miles per hour, which will be about 45 kilometers per hour, at those times, everything should be shut down, loose material should be covered if you want to avoid dust. So these are some of the principles that can be used for dust control management. As far as mitigation is concerned, wet suppression can be used. You can apply water on backfilling material, on all dust generating sources. You can also use non-toxic chemical suppressant that are there. For big project, wind barrier should be constructed, whether it is a fence type barrier, wind barrier, the barrier that you are constructing, or if there are natural trees, then that they should be kept as a wind barrier. Vegetation should be kept as much as possible till you are required to excavate or clear that site. As I said, minimize the disturbed area and only move from one disturbed area to another after you have taken care of the first disturbed area. That should be the principle, and everything should be covered. And this has to now become a major practice. See, so far we have been thinking that pollution only comes from the tailpipe of vehicles. That's not true. As I showed you in the first slide itself, whether you take PM 2.5 or PM 10, dust is a major source of pollution in India. And therefore, we have to take dust as seriously, in fact, even more seriously than the way we are taking care of pollution management from other sources. So we now have to start thinking about dust very, very seriously and bring dust control as part of our environmental regulation and project management practices. How do you control road dust from road and roadside? Every one of us who travels sees how much dust is generated from the roads. Again, every city will have to develop city road dust control plans now. You will have to identify roads where dust is generated, and then you will have to identify how you are going to control dust. So a major survey should be done in all the cities to identify stretches of road where dust is a major problem, and then develop an action plan to reduce dust. Like site preparation, we will have to minimize barren roadside and curb area. You will see in our cities that you have paved road, but as far as curb is concerned, it is left barren. There's no vegetation even. So roadside curbs should be either covered with vegetation. You can have a grass cover, you can have trees and grass, or it has to be paved. There is no other way. And paving can be both from a porous material, so that water can recharge into the ground. Groundwater is also an important resource. Or where appropriate, you can also have proper non-porous paving material. But we cannot have in our cities roadsides which are open and a major source of dust. That should not happen. In some of the urban area which has high potential of dust, we will have to reduce vehicle speed. As I said, an important tool to reduce dust. You will have to use dust suppressant. Mainly, if you look at the dust suppressant which is coming to the market, it is largely chlorides or chemicals which are of lignin. So it is either magnesium chloride, calcium chloride. There is a calcium magnesium acetate, CMA, which is coming into the market. But these should be applied with caution. You should not use it, in a disproportionate amount, because after all, these are salts, and these salts will get washed through rain. It will get into your water bodies. It will contaminate your water body. So use dust suppressant, use non-toxic chemicals like magnesium and calcium chloride and CMA and some other chemicals that are coming in the market, but make sure that you use them with caution and as per the prescription, which is in how much amount, when and where. It should not be used blindly and without following the procedures. As I said, manual sweeping with water spray is acceptable. So in smaller roads within the colonies, you can continue with manual sweeping, but with water spray. But if you are using mechanical sweeping, and then it must be done with vacuum collection system and filtration system. These are the things that we need to do as far as dust is concerned. And as you can see, these are not hi-fi technologies. These are basic technologies. These are basic practices. Covering an open area is a basic management method. Reducing dust from road is something that we can do in our general activity. Developing a city road dust control plan is something that can be done easily. It doesn't require a lot of GIS and satellite map to map out where the dust is coming out. If you walk across the city, you can identify areas where large amount of dust is coming out of the road. This can be done with even manual survey. So what I'm trying to say is dust control is something which is within your hand. As city administration, you can tackle the biggest source of air pollution easily if you are able to manage dust. Now, moving from dust, let's look at waste management. In many cities, garbage is burnt, and burning of garbage is a major source of pollution, or leaves are burnt. Now the leaf burning season is coming. leaves will fall, municipal worker will collect the leaves at one place and they will burn it. And it creates huge amount of air pollution. All these can be solved by very simple techniques. They do not, again, as I said, they do not require very hi-fi technology. They can be done with simple practice. And I'm going to give you the example of a city, a small city in Madhya Pradesh, Ambikapur, how Ambikapur has been able to reduce its waste burning, its waste management by following simple principles. The first thing to understand is in waste management is that segregation and appropriate technology is most important. You cannot do waste management without segregation at source. And every one of us will have to segregate the waste at source. In our household, in our offices, in our commercial establishment, waste segregation has to be the fundamental practice and responsibility of every citizen. If you want to do good waste management, if you want to reduce burning of waste outdoors, if you want to reduce air pollution from waste, then segregation is the fundamental principle and practice that has to be used. As you can see, the waste can be divided into three types. Biodegradable waste, which is basically waste that is coming out of our food consumption, from horticulture, leaves from tree, all these are biodegradable waste. And biodegradable waste can be composted, made into fertilizer. It is, in fact, today, the most costly fertilizer that you buy in cities are actually compost, good quality compost. Good quality compost is really expensive. It is even more expensive than urea. So if you can make good quality compost, you will make money as a city, as an individual. So composting is a money-making business. Composting is not something that you only do as a social responsibility. So one, biodegradable waste can be composted. It can go for biomethanation, whether centralized or decentralized, and you can generate energy out of biomethanation. The slurry can again be used as a manure. As far as non-biodegradable is concerned, which is your plastic, metal, glass, they can be channelized for recycling. If it is a very low calorific value, non-recyclable, it can go to a sanitary landfill. But if it has high calorific value, then it can be sent to waste to energy plant. So as you can see, there is a very clear hierarchy of technology. Biodegradable waste, compost, biomethanation, non-biodegradable, recycle, low calorific value, send it to sanitary landfill, high calorific value, you can co-process, make RDF, send to waste to energy. And domestic hazardous waste, either you have to incinerate or send it to the TSDF site. This is the only technology that is available. Now, this is what the waste technology is all about. And as I said, none of these technology will work if you're not segregating waste at source. Segregation of waste as source is the most important thing for operationalizing of any waste management technology. If you give mixed waste, then none of these will work. You cannot make good compost. You cannot do good biomethanation. You certainly cannot recycle large amount of non-biodegradable. It is difficult for waste to energy plant, and therefore everything goes to the landfill. So segregation is fundamental to operationalize any technology that you want to use for waste. Now, coming back to Ambikapur model, and I want to show you how a small city, this is a city of 2 lakh population. That's it. 2 lakh people, 19 wards, a small city in Madhya Pradesh, which has started this model, which is now called as Ambikapur model. Basically, the goal of the model is to develop a self-sustaining waste management system with maximum application of 3R principle. 3R is reduce, recycle, reuse. This is what the 3R principle is. And this is what the city has done. But the operational line is self-sustaining waste management system, which means city is not even spending a penny as operational and maintenance costs. In fact, city is making money out of waste management. If every city will make money out of waste management and not spend money on waste management if they follow Ambikapur model. There are 12 salient points that they have used. First, the most important one, waste segregation at source, development of segregation-based infrastructure for collection and transportation, decentralized processing, closer to the source of generation, and I will explain it to you. Involvement and assimilation of informal worker in the formal setup, reduction in waste going to landfill. Now only 10% of waste goes to landfill. Reclamation of old landfill, maximum involvement of private and informal sector, development of recycling industry, waste management fee. It's a polluters pay principle. Everyone has to pay waste management fee in Ambikapur. A multi-year propagation cycle to institutionalize segregation, city bylaw. Every city must have waste management bylaw and data and information management system. These are the 12 principles based on which they have done it. I'll show you how they have done it. This was what Ambikapur was before this model was implemented. And this you can see in every city in India today. Most cities in India, you will have people taking out waste from the nala. You will have at some point waste is disposed. You will have, this is the way waste is put into the tractor and trucks, and this is what happens to the dump yard, where you have fire and air pollution. This is now a very, very common sight in most cities, in cities that are also working on waste management. This is what the site is. They have done door-to-door collection of segregated waste. They segregate further waste further at MRF, and they have set up something called as Solid and Liquid Waste Resource Management Center, SLRM. And I will explain to you what is SLRM, and then material recovery facility. And every waste is recycled as a raw material for industries. For workers, they have organized workers, especially women worker, into self-help group. They have trained and built their capacity, and they have turned these workers into Swachhata entrepreneurs. These are not workers. These are now entrepreneurs. They collect waste, they segregate waste, they sell waste. They are now a business people. They are business persons in waste management industry. This is how door-to-door collection happens. So as you can see, every infrastructure is designed for segregation. So even a tricycle has two parts. One part is for collecting dry waste, another part is for collecting wet waste. And there is door-to-door collection. Every household and business has to have two bins. If you do not follow, they do not collect your waste. Every shop has to have two bins. So there is door-to-door collection of segregated waste. They have their uniform, they have their badge, they have their mask, they have their gloves. All the safety equipment is there. It is done very professionally, as you can see. This is what it is. This is Solid and Liquid Resource Management Center, SLRM Center. For every 10,000 people, they have set up one center. So this is the thumb rule. For every 10,000 people, there is this center which has been set up. What does the center do? They segregate waste. Further, in Ambikapur, they segregate dry waste into 56 items. The more you segregate, the more you can sell. So they segregate medicine, they segregate eggshell, they segregate mango, an orange peel, everything. Syringe is segregated separately, bottle is segregated separately, the small bottle is segregated separately. As I said, even a pen is segregated in 3 parts. So the key of Ambikapur model is segregate, segregate, and segregate. And then you can make money, because then people can come and quickly pick up what they want. They want the cap of the ball pen, the plastic, or they want the body of the ball pen, or they want the refill itself. They all are made from different plastics. So this is what Ambikapur model is: segregate, segregate, and segregate. As I said, they segregate in 56 plus items. This is what happens at resource and MRF. As far as organic waste is concerned, they, as I said, biodegradable waste is separated. Some of the biodegradable waste, for example, eggshell, is washed and sold separately. There are business people who come to buy eggshell from Ambikapur. So some of the waste is washed and kept aside. The rest is sent for organic composting, and they make money out of selling the compost to the city itself. They sell the compost to the city for gardening, for tree and other things. So this is what Ambikapur model is. This was the open dump site of Ambikapur. As you can see, it was at the entry of the city. There was fire at the open site. This was really an eyesore, a very badly managed dumping ground. This is how it looks like now. They have reclaimed with biological process. They have covered it with fresh soil and jute, and they are now converting this dumping yard into a park. This is what you all can do. This is not a rocket science. So this is what the Ambikapur model is. A city of 2 lakh people, 19 wards, have shown how waste management should be done. There is no burning of garbage and therefore no pollution from waste management. So this is what the Ambikapur model of waste management is. And every city can do it. I'll go back and just tell you the principles again. Segregation at source can be enforced in every city. Every city can come out with city bylaw to enforce segregation at source. You can penalize people who are not segregating waste, and you can reward people who are segregating waste. Under Swachh Bharat mission, 2-bin model is money is given by the government to distribute 2 bins, and therefore all cities can develop segregation-based infrastructure for collection and transportation. This is part of Swachh Bharat mission. This is part of solid waste management rules of 2016. These are the law of the country. It must be implemented and enforced. Again, you can do decentralized processing. All cities can set up a solid and liquid resource management center, SLRM, as Ambikapur has done, and many cities are doing today. Ambikapur model is now being implemented in many cities in the country. This can also be done. You can reclaim your landfill site, you can develop recycling industry, you can make waste worker Swachhata entrepreneurs. These things can be done. And this is what Ambikapur model shows. This is what it used to look like, and this is what the city looks like now. This is what the city is, and as I told you, it's a clean, neat city with no garbage on road, no dustbin in wards. They do not have any dustbin where people can go and throw their waste. Each and every waste is collected at source by door-to-door collection system, so that people do not have the option of throwing waste on the road or into a community bin, which is a very, very bad practice. In fact, all of us should get rid of community bins. Panjim has done it in Goa. In Panjim, you will not see one community bin today. So if we have good door-to-door collection system, there is no need for community bins. You will need some amount of bins in commercial area, but no community bins for residential area. That is not required. This is what the Ambikapur model is. I'll come back to transport now and give you some idea about what cities can do in transport sector. Of course, to reduce pollution from transportation, the major approach is, first of all, you have to do the modal shift. You have to reduce the number of private vehicles and shift to public transport. This will reduce congestion, but this will also reduce pollution. And therefore, modal shift is a very important tool in cities. And therefore, cities should move to more public transport like buses. Wherever metro is there and money is available, metro is being constructed. But certainly in small cities where metro is not possible because of economy of scale, buses should be promoted. And you can promote now electric bus. Electric buses are coming, which are as cost efficient as diesel buses. You have modern bus, which is coming into the market. Similarly, paratransit is very important so that people can move from bus stand to their homes. And that's where electric three-wheelers is now becoming very, very popular. So modal shift, moving people from their private two-wheelers and cars to public transport is very, very important. The second is stringent emission norms, where cities have hardly any role, and pollution control board, other than having a PUC, pollution under control system, where vehicles can go and get themselves tested and certified. But as far as the standard is concerned, which is now BS6, which is coming into the market, cities and pollution control boards have hardly any role in it. The third is shifting to less polluting fuel. As you know, many cities have moved from gasoline to CNG and now to electric. So as we move ahead in future, you will see more and more electric vehicles coming into the market, whether it is electric two-wheeler, electric car, electric three-wheeler is already there, but these technologies will also come. The fourth, where cities have major role, is by better design of roads itself. Our roads are designed very, very, very poorly. Our roads are designed for cars. They are not designed for people. And there is a fundamental difference in designing road for cars and road for people. If you start designing road for people, your roads are going to look very different. So a major job of city managers is how do they design their roads and transport infrastructure, which is people friendly. And a parking policy which incentivizes public transport and discourages private transport. So both is in the hand of cities, and it is very important. And lastly, how do we make our cities walkable? How do we walk in the cities? How can we bicycle in the city? How do we use other non-motorized transport? A healthy city is also a walkable city. If you can walk a lot, it is healthy for you. It is healthy for the city because you will pollute less. So the fifth principle, and it is again in the hand of municipalities, how to make a city walkable and non-motorized transport friendly. Now, number 4 and 5 and number 1 is in the hand of municipalities and state governments. Promoting public transport, reducing congestion on roads by better design and better parking policy, making your roads people friendly, and promoting walking and non-motorized transport. These can be done by cities themselves. They do not need help of anyone else to do these things. This is what a car-centric design looks like, where the road is only for car. And then we ask people to take either overhead or underground. So we design our cities for car, and then people have to jump to cross the road, or car has to be stopped so that people can walk. This is what a car-centric design looks like, where the first right is of car and not of people. So to move away from a car-centric design, the first principle is that the right on road should be of people and not of car. This is what, if you give the first right to the car, then this is how your city is going to look like. where people will have to jump the fence, people have to take overhead bridge, people will, the car will occupy all your road space with very little space for walking and cycling and other things. Now, we will have to move away from car-centric design to a people-centric design. And this is the best example of people-centric design. I know many of you would have gone to Chandni Chowk in Delhi. The left side picture is of Chandni Chowk of past. I'm sure all of you would have seen this, where there is no space for walking. The entire Chandni Chowk is chock-a-block. There is no space where car and three-wheelers and auto rickshaw and rickshaw and people are jostling for space. They're fighting with each other. The right side is New Chandni Chowk, where cars are not allowed. The right has been snatched from the car and the right has been given to people. This is what the New Chandni Chowk looks like, where people can walk and there's enough space to walk, to chat, to shop, to eat, and create a community space. And this is what every city has to think about. How do you create places in the cities where people can come, people can engage, people can walk, laugh, rather than being afraid of getting hit by a car on the road? If this can be done in Chandni Chowk, it can be done in any city in India. That I can tell you right now, because the amount of political pressure, the amount of conflict that was there in Chandni Chowk was far more than any other city, because Chandni Chowk is a very old area. So if it can be done in Chandni Chowk, it can be done in any part of the country. And this is what every city will have to do. Every city will have to create a space for walking and cycling. So far, I have given you 3 examples, 3 case studies and multiple case studies on dust, on waste management, and on transport. All these case studies can be done by city themselves. They do not require very high cost technology. They require basic principles and basic common sense. And if we do this, we will be able to reduce pollution in our cities. We will be able to reduce dust pollution. We will be able to reduce waste burning. We will be able to reduce pollution from cars and two-wheelers and other transport systems. Therefore, these are the key takeaways on best practices. First, in fact, the most important actor in air pollution control is municipality. It is not Pollution Control Board. Neither it is Ministry of Environment and Forest. Neither it is the central government or the state government. If cities want to reduce air pollution, then municipality has the most important role to reduce air pollution in the city. Number 2, reducing air pollution is a co-benefit agenda. If you want to reduce waste burning, then your waste management system will improve. Your city is going to look clean and neat and happy. If you make people-friendly road, your city is going to look beautiful, as Chandni Chowk looks like today. So the second is, acting on air pollution is going to benefit the city not only in reducing air pollution, but also in making the quality of life in the city better, by having better road, by having better waste management system, by beautifying the city. So it is a co-benefit agenda. The third is, action has to be localized. As I told you, you will have to survey every stretch of the road in the city to know where dust is generated from the road. Or you will have to go and see every open space in the city to estimate if dust is coming out of that space. Localization is going to be very, very important. And last, it is about getting the basics right. Managing air pollution is also about applying common sense. As I said, none that I have presented to you, whether it is Ambikapur model, whether it is dust control at site or dust control at road or designing a people's friendly road, is a rocket science. These are simple, basic, common sense principles that we have to use to control dust, to control air pollution in our cities. So this is what the presentation is. I am finishing my presentation, and now I will take question and answer for the next 10-15 minutes if you have any. Thank you very much.